Hey, modern math teacher. I am really excited. I've got fun, exciting news to share with you guys. I have recently decided to start the journey to becoming a nationally board certified teacher. How many of you out there are NBCTs? Please send me all of your love, all of your luck, all of your best advice. You can absolutely hit text the show and the top of my show notes and share any and all advice with me. I would so appreciate it. Okay. All right. So, beyond that, you guys, quick gut check question. If someone walked into the room tomorrow and asked you, what does effective math teaching look like here? What evidence would you point to? Would you be showing them like a nice, beautiful unit plan? Would you showcase your state test scores? Or would you pull out a student's notebook, a snippet of classroom talk, a short video, and say, here, listen to what they're doing with the ideas? Okay. Today, you guys, I'm going to bring you behind the scenes of my national board journey, part one, why I decided to pursue it now, what is already changing about my teaching, and simple doable moves that can lift for your class this week. Okay. So things you can use in your class this week, whether national board certification is on your radar or not. We'll talk identity, real world relevance, safe math spaces, orchestrating discussion, formative evidence, and how to teach the proof of learning. Oh, and I'm going to share a few ways to help streamline the reflection and planning in a way that supports, not replaces teacher judgment. So if you are up for it and you're curious, let's get into it. Okay, so why the national board? Why now? What's the deal? You guys know that I've always believed math is so much more than just solving for X. Like literally, hence more than just X origin story. Okay. The belief started way back in my Michigan State days when I launched a senior project on higher order thinking tasks and a little Weebly site, shout out 2010s internet phase, that grew into a career long mission for me. Help students and teachers use math to think, problem solve, and make decisions beyond the classroom. Okay. Fast forward a few years, I spent years building a small, fully project based school with a scrappy and mighty team. Shout out to my OG Flex Techians. We created the kind of learning that I wish every kid had: flexible, student centered, paced around the learner, deeply real world and relevant. Okay. Leaving that school was honestly one of the hardest professional decisions that I've ever made, but I wanted the impact to reach more students in a bigger system. So I had to go. Enter my current job. I came in as a mom and a teacher, knowing that the district was ready to explore new approaches. And from day one, I started small, real world tasks, some sense making, some discussion, sprinkle it on in there. Then we expanded the Rocket Project to every single level of Algebra 2, you guys, from co taught to honors, because students deserve to see that math and quadratics are about so much more than just parabolas on some paper. Okay. This year, I'm excited because we're piloting a new curriculum that centers inquiry and conversation. It's not perfect, friends. Pilots literally never are. And I'm sure I'll do a whole episode on our pilot, but you can feel the shift. I even heard reports that one Algebra 1 teacher literally got a round of applause after her first lesson. Guys, that's the energy we're talking about. So why national board? Why now? Really, honestly, it just felt like the next step for the teacher leader identity that I've grown into. You know, classroom practitioner, coach, curriculum consultant, podcaster, PD designer, presenter. At national board asked us to prove accomplished teaching with evidence, right? Not the feels, not the vibes, not a Pinterest board, but actual evidence of student learning, equity, reflection, content specific practice. It's a real rigorous mirror, and I wanted that mirror. I wanted something to prove to myself. So, when I was in my classroom and I was applying to join the cohort for it, I had to record a lesson. And so when I recorded my sequences lesson, right, from sequences or functions, I wasn't trying to create like a showpiece. I literally just popped up my phone and recorded. It was a totally normal day. Okay. We did a visual pattern, a notice and wonder, some partner talk, a whole class orchestration. Right. And a move from students' language to formal vocabulary, like explore first, name it later, concepts before vocab. So, some snapshots from that lesson that I now see through my NBC lens. Active engagement is engineered, not hoped for. So, I used activation questions to pull prior knowledge on arithmetic and geometric sequences, and I built a quick notice and wonder. right, for it. I circulated with clarifying prompts, like one more of what? What is it that you're adding here? How can you say that it's growing, right? To sharpen the precision in their language, I use thumb checks. If you're watching on YouTube, you just saw me do it to gauge their readiness. And I planned who would share to move the math forward. Classic 5 practices work. Shout out Peg Smith. Okay. Also, safety is visible. At the beginning of the year, we had co-created those norms. And in the video, I paused to resurface some of them and invite the students to choose a norm to focus on. A lot of students carry math trauma. Goodness knows, Vanessa, the math guru, can tell you all about that, okay? So elevating their status, revoicing their contributions, and asking for multiple ways of seeing the pattern are not extras. They're the entry ticket to learning. That's what gives them the safety to know that I value them in my classroom, okay? And there's assessment and conversation. As I walked, I was listening for accuracy, for depth. I adjusted midstream when it was clear that we hadn't yet named the relationship between step number and like the total of dots in our visual, okay? That decision point, adjusting before we move on, is one hallmark of effective teaching. And one of my favorites, concepts before labels. I've used this in all of my courses, I think. Students explored, they noticed, they generalized, and then I layered in recursive as a term. The shift, going from concept to vocab, has changed everything about how my students feel about hard words. They can often describe the concept and they understand it, and then you give them the vocab word to state it mathematically. Okay. They already had their own idea when that label arrives. And listen, friend, if you are not pursuing board certification, you can still borrow this frame. What would be visible on a video that proves my students are thinking mathematically? Then plan for that visibility, okay? Now, here's the hardest part for me. It's my growth edge, right? A big obstacle in my career was leaving the PBL school that I helped build. Already said that. Stepping into a large district that still valued textbooks felt really risky, if I'm going to be honest. I was worried, okay? Will my approach land? Will my colleagues see inquiry and projects as real teaching? But here's what shifted me. I stopped trying to convert anyone and started producing evidence in my own room. Student talk, work samples, steady growth. That evidence travels faster than any pitch deck, friends. It invited conversation. It opened doors, curriculum work, mentorship. And now I'm on the national board cohort, and I am so excited to be joining that small team from my district, all of us working towards our board certification together. So, friend, if you're sitting in a district where the culture feels very traditional, okay, you don't need a revolution to start. You need 10 minutes of proof, captured weekly, maybe a clip, a discussion, 3 student artifacts with your notes, or a reflection on a decision point. The culture changes when the evidence accumulates. That's the change you can make. Now, when I applied for the cohort, I was asked to name who we are as educators, and that was a deeply reflective component for me. My core values, quality time, making a difference, personal growth, show up in some concrete ways for me. Okay. As a parent with kids in the system, I definitely empathize with families who experience a very different math education. And that empathy keeps communication human when we talk about inquiry, mistakes, and mastery. Hallmarks of my classroom. Okay. I also worked hard this summer to earn a certificate in AI in education, not to chase a trend, but to widen the tools that I can offer my colleagues and my students. That's my rule. Technology must reduce friction and increase learning, not just be an extra, not just sprinkle on some glitter. Okay. Not about that life. And resilience and well-being, okay? Navigating health challenges. Hello, my friends. If you don't know, I've got like a dozen allergies, okay? It reminded me that, strength training isn't just in the gym. It's also in my mental state. It's in everything that I do. It's in lesson design. It's in small sustainable reps over time. My students can still feel that steadiness, okay? So think to yourselves, identity work isn't abstract, okay? It's something important to reflect back on. It clarifies why you make the moves that you make and helps you to explain them to students, parents, and colleagues without, defensiveness. Okay. So here are some classroom moves that I'm going to be focusing in on as I'm starting and working towards meeting number 2 with my board cohort. Okay, a couple of practices that national board is already sharpening for me. Steal them for your work this week. First up, you can plan one evidence moment in every lesson. Decide in advance what interaction will show student reasoning. Maybe it's a partner justification. Maybe it's a whole class agree or disagree and why. Plan the prompt and how you'll capture it. Quick photo of whiteboard, 60-second video, exit slips, whatever it is. Okay. Name the cognitive demand out loud. So this is number 2. You can use a simple line. Today, the thinking work is finding a rule from a pattern. That's generalizing. So it's normalizing productive struggle and tells students the kind of brain work that we value. Okay. Number 3, use status elevating talk moves. Revoice student ideas with precision. I'm hearing you say that the step number increases by 1 while the total grows by 3. Let's test that. You can attribute good questions and invite multiple representations. Your students begin to hear themselves and see themselves as mathematicians. As always, I love a good explore first, formalize later. Most of you know that. So let the concept breathe in everyday language before naming the vocab, before naming the actual math behind it. When kids own the idea, then the formal terms and concepts stick harder. And pre-plan who shares. Gosh, shout out to 5 practices. They will never, ever get old, okay? So as you circulate, select and sequence 3 or however many student voices that will purposely advance the class's understanding. You're going to feel the difference in whole class talk. It's going to be typer, deeper, more inclusive for everyone, okay? So here's something that you could try tomorrow. After class is done, write 2 sentences. When I noticed this happening in my classroom, I decided to do this because of this. Try that like 3 times this week, okay? You're building a reflective muscle and maybe even some usable portfolio language without a mountain of extra paperwork. All right. Now, November also nudges us towards finals prep. So let's zoom the lens a little bit. In my application reflection, I kept asking like, what counts as evidence here? And the question changes how I review, right? So from moving from recall to reasoning. So I'm designing a review that asks students to decide which representation is more useful here. Why? Which students' claims do you agree with? Where would the formula fail? Okay. Going from points to proof, right? When I look at student work, I'm asking for warrants. How do you know? How would you convince a skeptic? Students start anticipating the need for justifying rather than just trying to pacify with their answers. And thinking more holistically, not just on tests, right? Finals and exams are just one moment, but they're not the moment of learning. I'm capturing a chain of reasoning across the month, across the unit, across the week. A warm up explanation, a quick flip reflection, a task with written justification. NBC has me thinking more longitudinally. Ooh, that's a word for me, not just event by event. So, things I want you to try this week, you could add a convince us prompt to a review task. Then, in 60 seconds after class, jot down what you learned about a couple of your students and how it's going to change tomorrow's grouping or questioning. Okay. A couple of different activities and ideas there. All right, you guys. So, listen, if National Board is on your horizon, amazing. Consider this your nudge. And if not, you can still adopt the heart of it. Collect small, meaningful evidence and let it sharpen your craft. Your challenge this week, pick one lesson, any lesson, and plan a single evidence moment that you'll capture. Is it a photo? Is it a snippet of talk? Is it an exit slip? After class, right, when I noticed this, I decided to this because of this. And make one micro change for the next period based on that reflection. That's accomplished teaching in motion, guys. Hey, if you want full support building these practices without doing it alone, don't forget Modern Math Teacher membership is full of ready-to-use tasks, discussion routines, planning templates, plus a community of teachers who are working on refining their practice together, and you are always invited. That's it for me. If you've got tips for me along the journey, make sure to share them with me. Shoot the show a message or find me on Instagram at more than just X, and I'll keep you guys updated as I go along. Until next time, guys, keep it real.